quorum with 7 of us here, so we'll continue with the agenda. Is there a motion to approve the minutes of October 22nd? From Bill O'Brien and second by Bill Perillo. Thank you. All in favor? Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor? Aye. 7. There was no unfinished or tabled items, so we'll move along to new business. Item 4, an ordinance regarding roadside memorial markers. Is there a motion to discuss? Or
to approve, and then a second, and then discussion.
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion to approve.
Chris Pia made a motion. Is there a second? Bill O'Brien. Any discussion? Did everyone have a chance to read the ordinance?
Just a question.
Sure.
Did any members of the public make comments regarding, for example, no glass, no candles? Those are pretty common items.
I didn't hear from anybody.
Nobody called, and nobody's here tonight, so
Okay.
I think that it's pretty well, very well written, actually, and it's a sensitive topic. I think it takes everything pretty much into consideration. I just have one minor addition, unless anybody else has anything to comment about.
Just, Madam Chair, question for Attorney Flark. The 90-day, I'm fine with, but just regarding other surrounding municipalities, similar, I know that could be, that's the hardest part of this, is how many days do we allow it to stand for? 90 days, 60 days, 180, but do we know of the surrounding communities and what they do, if any?
There really are not many of these ordinances around. We looked and tried to find them, but there's not. So 90 days simply seemed to me like an appropriate time. It was long enough, but yet it was not so long as to really become an impediment or a problem. But certainly, if you feel differently, we can that can be amended to whatever you feel is reasonable under the circumstances.
Okay, thank you.
Is there any other opinion on that? Does anyone have an opinion on the 90 days?
My only opinion is I think go with the 90 days and see how much complaints come down the road after that. You really won't know till we get into it. And I think my only concern is kind of a case-by-case basis, you know, because families are different situations. Bill can shed more light on that. Their circumstances are different. So, but that would be my recommendation. Go with the 90 days and see where it goes.
I just have one little addition that I'd like to throw out there for consideration under F. Roadside memorials shall not encroach upon any public roadway. I would like to have or be attached in any way to existing structures such as telephone poles, fences, or trees. I think that the ordinance is well written, but I think it's presuming that these memorials will be freestanding, and a lot of them are not.
Could we add that as a separate item, that memorials will be freestanding and not attached?
Yeah, however, I mean, it could be added anyway.
Yeah, I mean, the proper way to do it would be for someone to make a motion to amend the ordinance before you by adding that language, and then a second, and then you know you'd vote on the amendment and then vote on the ordinance as amended. You might also want to consider, as you were speaking, I was thinking you talk about trees and fences and telephone poles. Also, you know, possible public signs, you know, stop signs, road signs, things like that, street signs. It might be advisable not to allow attachment to those things either.
I agree. Does anybody, would anybody like to entertain a motion to discuss this? Amending, then that would be amending the ordinance to include this language about attaching the memorial to any existing structure such as telephone poles, fences, or trees. Mr. Hardin, Councilor Hardin, thank you. Is there a second?
Is this for a discussion?
Yeah, well, if I get a second, then we can discuss.
I'd like to discuss it. A second.
Bill Perillo, Counselor Perillo, and now discussion. Go ahead.
We got to vote on it first.
Oh, do we have to vote first, or?
Well, you have to, we got a motion and a second.
Okay,
Well,
and then discussion.
and discussion, okay. Yeah, go with the discussion, that's fine.
Okay.
I just had a question. If we're talking about utility poles, stop signs, some of those properties are not owned by the town, they're owned by utility companies. Do we have to make them aware of this ordinance, or do they make an agreement with a homeowner or a grieving family? They don't have a problem with it. Some of those structures are not ours, they're the utility companies.
I understand that, and I guess technically, if the phone company does not mind somebody attaching something to their pole, I guess there's not a lot that the town could do about that, so long as the rest of the ordinance is not violated, so it doesn't spill out into the roadway or block the sidewalk or anything like that.
I don't think that the UI company and all the other agencies or facilities would, lean against, the rules that the town has put in place. And, we use their facilities, we're pretty cool with them, and we work well with them. And I think most of these companies will work well with us. And I think if this is put in place, I think they'll support us and agree with us. I mean, some of these things, if you ride through the city of Bridgeport, you see balloons hanging from poles, and they're distractive to people driving. And people look at that, and next thing you know, they're rear-ending someone or hitting a pedestrian. So I think long as we have it in place, it protects us and it protects the residents, and, and I think that the UI company and all the other facilities will be in line with this.
Madam Chair, the only item for question that I have is for enforcement, and maybe directed to the town attorney again. It doesn't just clearly state, would this fall under the blight officer or would this fall under the public safety director? Because it does reference public safety, but I just want to be clear as to which department would be doing the enforcing.
I don't think it would be blight. I think it would be public safety. I didn't put anything in there, but we certainly can put an enforcement sentence in there. But I think it probably is more germane to public safety than it is to blight.
I would agree.
Is there any other discussion?
Well, I think I know the answer, John, but those that have been out there for months already still get another 90 days, right, after the ordinance?
Well, right now, there is no regulation in place, so there's probably no right for it to be there at all, no legal basis for it to be there at all. And that's not really addressed in the ordinance, so I suppose that if it's not a nuisance, if it's not an impediment, if it's not a safety problem, then it would be probably, as a practical matter, more understanding to allow it for the 90 days.
Well, there's a motion on the floor.
There's a motion on the floor that was seconded to amend it in certain respects.
Exactly.
Right, Madam Chair,
Yes.
we put such as, we should put such as but not limited to, so that it won't be attached to anything.
Exactly. Such as, I agree.
And Mr. Pia, go back to the original motion. Was your motion to refer back to the town council with a favorable recommendation?
Well, first of all, you have to deal with the amendment, whether
Right, I know, I
you,
was just asking a question about the first motion. Was your motion to approve, so did you mean to send it back to the town council with favorable recommendation? We really gotta fix these.
Right. Right now is to amend it with this new wording, and then we can do another motion to move this forward to town council with a favorable recommendation, correct? Okay, so.
correct.
So the motion on the floor right now is to adjust the wording with this, and we, I think, have discussed or be attached, we can make it a separate H if we need to, or include it as part of F. I don't know, however it sounds best. But the new wording would be, or be attached in any way to existing structures, such as, but not limited to, telephone poles, fences, or trees.
And how about signs, street signs, stop signs?
Well, there's existing structures, so we don't really need to, I don't know, do you think we need to be real specific with each thing, or would existing structures kind of be a ballpark thing? I don't know, I'll leave it to the legal experts.
I would say you'd want to at least include something in there about signs, traffic signs or public signs.
Traffic signs. So telephone poles, fences, traffic signs, or trees. Does everyone think that's thorough enough? Any further discussion? Then I will entertain a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained?
Yeah.
Unanimous? And now the overall ordinance for existing roadside memorial markers. Is there a motion to move this forward to town council with a favorable recommendation as amended? Thank you. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? And I hope everyone understands that the discussion happens tonight so that we don't need to go over this again during town council. So all the counselors have had all their questions and everything's answered thoroughly, and we can move this forward to town council pretty efficiently. Thank you. No further business.
Second.
All in favor? Thank you, everyone.